Before everything, there is the breath. Not the one you chase, not the one you measure, but the one that simply happens, rising and falling, like the sea touching the sand. Take a slow inhale now, and as you do, imagine that each breath carries you further away from the noise of the day. Let the rhythm soften. Let the muscles around your eyes unclench. The space behind your thoughts grow wide, gentle, weightless. In this quiet space, there is no need to do. There is only being, only breathing. You are lying in darkness, but it is not empty. It is the kind of darkness that feels alive, soft and vast, like a night sky before the stars appear. Somewhere far away, you can almost hear water moving, a river, slow and unhurried, winding its way through the earth. It doesn't hurry to reach the sea. It knows the way. Now, imagine yourself standing by that river. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of earth and rain. Moonlight drifts across the surface, and every ripple gleams for a moment before disappearing again. You can hear the quiet lap of water against stone, and it sounds almost like breathing, the world itself inhaling and exhaling. That river is older than words. It has no name, no destination. It simply flows, from the mountain snow, through the forests, through the valleys, through the silent fields where the wind sleeps. It has seen kings rise and crumble, lovers meet and part, and still, it flows. As you stand there, you begin to feel something familiar stirring inside you. The same rhythm, the same flow. It's as if the river outside and the breath within you are reflections of one another. Two movements, one life. This is the Tao. Not a thing to find, not a path to follow, but the quiet way of everything that moves and rests, breathes and returns. A voice, soft, ancient, patient, seems to whisper from somewhere in the dark, not to teach, not to command, but simply to remind. The words are not quite words. They feel more like wind brushing across your skin. They say, you are not apart from the world. You are the world breathing itself. In this moment, you feel your body as part of that great unfolding. The heart beats like the rhythm of the tide. Your breath is the mist above the river. Your thoughts drift like clouds above a mountain that never moves. And the mountain, that is silence itself. Every breath now is a bridge between worlds, between what was and what is, between the known and the unnamed. You don't need to cross it. You are already there. The night grows deeper, and the stars begin to bloom across the sky. The air hums softly, and even the trees seem to listen. Somewhere, the sound of the river thickens, wider now, slower, endless. You can feel it inside you, that slow, unbroken motion, carrying away all tension, all effort, all thought. And then, in the stillness, you sense another presence, someone sitting nearby, quiet as stone, kind as the moonlight itself. The old philosopher, the keeper of silence, waiting for nothing but the moment. He does not speak yet, he simply breathes with you. And together, you drift, between breath and no breath, between thought and peace, toward the river, before words. The moon has climbed higher now, a silver lantern floating over the dark sweep of the Huanghe. Its reflection trembles on the water, broken into long ripples that drift like thoughts dissolving into silence. By the riverbank, an old man sits, wrapped in a robe the color of smoke. His hair, long and pale, moves with the wind. His eyes, half closed, mirror the quiet current. He is Lao Tzu, though names mean little here. Once he walked the marble corridors of the imperial court. He watched the endless debates, the chase for power, the hunger for permanence in a world that never stands still. He listened to men who spoke of virtue, yet sought control, who praised peace, yet sharpened their swords. And one morning, when the palace gates opened to the dawn, he simply turned away. He left without farewell, without resentment. The court forgot him, as the sea forgets a drop of rain. Now he sits beside the river, not as a sage, not as a teacher, but as part of the night itself. The wind gathers around him like an old friend. It moves through the reeds, whispering secrets no one owns. Sometimes it sounds like words, sometimes it is only the rustle of time itself. He listens, He does not seek meaning, for meaning is already here, folded within every sound. The water sighs against the stones, the crickets sing somewhere unseen, and between these small voices lies a vast silence, deeper than the night, older than the stars. You watch him breathe, and his stillness begins to enter you. It is not the stillness of stone, but of the mountain cloud, soft, alive, drifting yet unmoving. He seems untouched by thought, untouched by memory. His presence feels like the pause between heartbeats, the place where the world rests. He looks toward the river, and for a moment, the line between his gaze and the flowing water disappears. He and the river are not two. Both reflect the moon. Both carry the world without effort. The Tao flows through each, silent, unseen, complete. A soft wind passes, lifting a few leaves from the ground. They spin gently, catching moonlight, then settle again. And in that motion, Lao Tzu smiles, the faintest curve, almost lost in shadow. He murmurs, perhaps to himself, perhaps to the night. The river does not strive, and yet it arrives. The wind does not plan, and yet it moves all things. His voice is low, shaped more by breath than by sound. It carries no demand, no wisdom forced upon the world. It is as if the Tao itself has borrowed his lungs for a moment to speak. He leans forward, letting his hand skim the water's surface. The ripples move outward, widening circles of silver light. Each ring fades softly into the next, until there is no trace left, only the calm river, once again whole. He watches, then closes his eyes. All things return, he whispers. All things. Come home. The wind shifts. It carries the scent of distant pine, the memory of snow from the mountains where the river begins. Somewhere, an owl calls once, then falls silent again. You feel the cool breath of the night on your skin, gentle, patient. The stars seem closer now, as if listening too. Lao Tzu opens his eyes, not to look, but to see. And in that seeing, everything glows faintly. The stones, the grass, the air between breaths. Nothing asks to be more than it is. Everything simply is. He does not speak again. He has already said what cannot be said, not through words, but through stillness, through presence, through the unbroken rhythm of the river beside him. You sense that this too is teaching, not instruction, but remembrance. The world has not forgotten how to be simple. We have only forgotten how to listen. The night deepens, the river widens, and the old philosopher sits, unmoving, as the moon drifts lower and the water hums softly against the shore. The wind folds around you both, a tender, invisible cloak, and in that hush where nothing strives, the Tao breathes through everything. The night has grown deeper, yet it feels lighter somehow, as if the darkness itself has begun to breathe. The river moves in silence, silver threads unweaving across the vast plain. Lao Tzu still sits by its edge, eyes half closed, a quiet witness to the rhythm of things. He does not move, and yet the world moves through him. Somewhere in that stillness, you begin to sense the secret of Wu Wei. It is not the art of doing nothing. It is the art of not forcing. The way the wind bends around the hill, the way the moon reflects without effort, the way the river finds its path without thought or struggle. Nothing in nature strives, and yet everything is done. The philosopher's voice rises again, soft as wind brushing through reeds. He says, "When you stop trying to hold the world holds you." The words linger in the air, weightless, as if the night itself repeats them back in echo. Close your eyes now and feel what that means. There is a still place inside you, the same stillness that hums beneath the stars, beneath the waves, beneath every thought you've ever had. It doesn't demand, it doesn't judge, it simply is. And when you rest there, the endless turning of life begins to flow more easily, more naturally. Imagine your mind as a pond. When stirred, it distorts the sky, but when it becomes calm, it mirrors the heavens perfectly. In stillness, everything returns to clarity. And from clarity, life moves by itself, like a leaf carried by the current. You feel that movement now, deep beneath the surface of your breathing. Each inhale draws in the quiet pulse of the universe. Each exhale lets go of the noise that once clung to you. There is no need to correct the breath. It knows where to go. There is no need to control the heart. It beats in time with the river. Wu Wei. To act without forcing. To move as water moves, soft, yielding, unstoppable. To trust that the path will open beneath your feet when you no longer insist on making it yourself. Lao Tzu once wrote, "The soft overcomes the hard. The yielding overcomes the strong." He smiled as he wrote it, perhaps thinking of water, how it wears down the mountain without lifting a single stone. It conquers by surrendering. It wins by not fighting. Now the philosopher lowers his gaze to the river again. The moonlight dances upon the surface, 1,000 tiny suns flickering for an instant and disappearing. He whispers, "This is the way of all things. To come and to go. To rise and to fall, and to never resist the changing." You listen, but soon even his words fade into the sound of water. What remains is the pulse of the earth, the low murmur of existence itself. You feel the same pulse within you, gentle, steady, ancient. You realize that you do not have to think your way into peace. You only have to stop struggling against it. There is nothing to fix, nothing to reach, nothing to become. Everything is already happening in its own time. Like dawn arriving without being summoned or a flower blooming without instruction, you too are unfolding perfectly now. The night drifts on. The stars wheel quietly above the river, and as you breathe, you begin to sense that you are no longer standing beside the water. You are within it. The current touches your skin, cool and endless. You move not against it, but with it, as if you were made of the same flowing substance. The sound of Lao Tzu's voice dissolves into the air, leaving only the whisper of the Tao, formless, wordless, infinite. You feel yourself floating in that silence, neither awake nor asleep, neither thinking nor dreaming, only flowing, only being. The moonlight fades behind a drifting cloud. The world softens, slows, breathes. And in that perfect stillness you understand without needing to understand. The Tao moves through you, around you, as you. The water carries you now, effortless, eternal. And as you drift, you hear the quietest whisper, "Do not become the river. You already are the river." The night has not ended. It has only deepened into a softer hue. The river moves quietly beneath the pale sky, carrying the moonlight as though it were a secret. You drift in that rhythm, neither fully here nor elsewhere. And somewhere within the current, a voice, calm, tender, almost weightless, begins to speak again. The Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. The words unfold slowly, like mist rising from the water. They do not ask to be understood. They ask only to be felt. You let them settle in your mind, and at first, they seem like a riddle. But soon, you notice the stillness between the syllables, the space that feels wider than meaning. It is there, in that quiet space, that the truth begins to shimmer. What is the Tao? If you reach for it, it slips through your fingers. If you try to define it, it becomes smaller than it is. It cannot be spoken because the moment it is caught by words, it ceases to be what it was, the living flow of everything. Words are nets, and the Tao is water. You watch as a thin layer of mist begins to rise above the river, silver and pale, curling in silent spirals. The old philosopher sits still, his gaze soft. He does not try to grasp the mist, though it brushes against his hands. He knows that to hold it is to lose it. And so he simply watches, breathing with it. The mist comes and goes. The river glimmers and fades. The world appears and disappears in every moment. And yet, through all of it, something constant remains. Not a thing, not a being, but the quiet pulse behind all things. This is the Tao, the rhythm that cannot be owned, the presence that cannot be named. It moves through your breath, through the turning of the moon, through the falling of each leaf. It moves in silence, yet it is never still. It holds all things, yet it belongs to none. You feel it now, not as a thought, but as a softness that fills the space inside your chest. It is like fog at dawn, touching everything, defining nothing, fining. You can no more possess it than you can possess the wind. You can only rest within it and let it move through you. Lao Tzu once smiled and said, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." Perhaps he did not mean silence as absence, but as reverence, the silence that listens, that allows the world to reveal itself. And so, you too listen, to the quiet river, to the unseen wind, to the part of yourself that has no name, and yet is everything. And in that moment, you understand without trying. The Tao cannot be named because it was never apart from you to begin with. The mist begins to lift, and what remains is the sound of water touching stone, a slow, endless rhythm, as if time itself were breathing. Lao Tzu still sits by the river, a small clay cup resting beside him. He reaches for it, holds it gently in his hands, and then speaks softly. We shape clay into a vessel, but it is the emptiness inside that makes it useful. You watch the cup glimmer faintly in the moonlight. It is simple, unadorned, a vessel of earth and air. If it were solid through and through, it could hold nothing. It is the space within that gives it purpose. The old philosopher runs his finger along the rim. He smiles, as if tracing the edge between form and formlessness. Emptiness is not nothing, he says quietly. It is the space where everything can be. You close your eyes and let the thought drift inward. Inside your chest, there is a space like that, wide, quiet, infinite. It is the space between one heartbeat and the next, between inhale and exhale. It is the space where your thoughts pause before another begins. It is the silence that holds every sound. So often we fill that space with worry. We crowd it with the noise of the day, the small anxieties, the looping thoughts, the restless search for meaning. We build walls of expectation and wonder why we cannot breathe. But the Tao whispers, "Empty yourself, and you will be filled." You take a slow breath in, and as you exhale, you imagine setting those worries down beside the river. Each one is a small stone you no longer need to carry. One by one, you let them fall into the water. They make the softest sound, and then they are gone, sinking into silence. What remains is lightness. You begin to notice that the emptiness inside you is not hollow, it is alive. It holds peace, possibility, and presence. It holds the capacity for joy. It holds the space for life to flow through freely, like air moving through a flute. Lao Tzu lifts the small cup again, now filled with river water. He tilts it slightly, watching the moonlight ripple across the surface. The cup does not cling to what it holds, he murmurs. It receives, it gives, it stays open. You smile softly. Perhaps the mind too is like that cup. When full of grasping, it grows heavy. When emptied, it becomes a vessel for peace. You let that image rest in you, the empty cup, the still river, the gentle moonlight. In this space, nothing is missing, nothing is lacking. The absence of noise becomes its own form of beauty. The stillness becomes a kind of fullness. Somewhere within that silence, you feel your breath slow to the pace of the river. Every exhale is a release, every inhale is a return. And the more you let go, the more you receive. You begin to see that emptiness is not a void to be feared. It is an opening, a quiet welcome. The Tao moves best through the open. Just as wind needs space to sing, just as water needs room to flow, the heart needs stillness to live. And as you sit there, breathing, listening, empty yet whole, you understand. You are the cup. You are the space. You are the fullness that comes from being free. The river glows beneath the moon, a silver ribbon winding through the dark earth. Its voice is quiet but steady, a whisper that has never ceased since the beginning of time. Lao Tzu watches it move, soft, unhurried, certain, and his eyes reflect the glimmering light. Nothing in the world is softer than water, he says, yet nothing can withstand it. You listen, and the meaning begins to unfold like a wave spreading toward the shore. Water has no shape of its own, and yet it shapes everything. It yields, but in yielding, it endures. It bends, but through bending, it breaks the hardest stone. No wall can keep it out forever. No mountain can resist it forever. He dips his hand into the current. The water slips through his fingers, cool, fluid, alive, yet its touch carries a quiet strength. See how it bows before everything it meets, he murmurs, and in bowing, it triumphs. You watch the flow, the endless folding of motion upon motion. There is no hurry, no force, only the patient rhythm of surrender. And still, the river carves its way through rock, through valley, through time itself. It asks for nothing, yet transforms all it touches. You breathe in, slow and deep, as if the air itself has softened. You begin to imagine your own life as water, moving through the landscapes of joy and sorrow, through narrow places and open seas. How often you have tried to control the current, to hold it, to fight it. And yet, what if peace is not in resistance, but in flowing? Let yourself be water for a moment. Feel the body loosen, the mind lighten. Every breath a wave, every thought a ripple. Let the edges blur between you and the night, between self and sky. The water does not question its path. It trusts the pull of gravity, the invisible hand of the Tao. The highest good, Lao Tzu once wrote, is like water. It benefits all things and does not compete. He gazes at the river, the way it embraces every stone, every curve, every imperfection of the land. It does not resist the shape it is given. It fills the low places, the forgotten, the unseen, and there it finds its strength. Perhaps this is the secret of true power. Not the power to control, but the power to yield. Not the force to command, but the grace to adapt, to be soft enough to survive every change, and quiet enough to hear the music hidden within them. You take another breath, deeper now. As the rhythm of the water moves through you, every tension loosens, every thought melts. You begin to feel the patience of centuries, the way rivers have carved canyons, shaped continents, nourished life. All without haste, all without pride. The moonlight shimmers, and for a moment, you see your reflection beside Lao Tzu's. Two shapes, two ripples on the same eternal surface. He turns to you and says softly, "Do not fight the flow. Become it." And so you do. You let go. The sound of the river deepens, wrapping around you like a lullaby. You are not above the current, nor beneath it. You are inside it, carried, supported, weightless. The world keeps moving. The stars drift overhead, and the water, soft and eternal, whispers its quiet promise. In yielding, there is strength. In flowing, there is peace. In softness, you are unbreakable. The night has grown utterly still. Even the wind seems to pause, as if listening to the quiet hum of the river below. Lao Tzu sits unmoving, and yet you feel that he is everywhere, in the rustle of the reeds, in the shimmer of moonlight, in the pulse beneath your skin. The river flows without effort, and somehow you begin to feel that your breath does too. Inhale, exhale. The air moves through you like the river through the valley, easy, unforced, ancient. You are not separate from it. You are not the one breathing. You are being breathed. Each breath rises from the same mystery that turns the stars and ripens the seasons. This, Lao Tzu once said, is the way, not a road to travel, but the quiet order beneath all things. It is the pulse of the universe that asks for nothing, yet sustains everything. It is the unseen harmony between mountain and rain, between heart and breath. It does not demand belief or obedience. It simply invites alignment. He turns toward you, his voice a murmur beneath the sound of water. To follow the Tao, he says, is to follow what is natural. Not the natural of the wilderness, but the natural within, the effortless rhythm that life itself has always known. When you live by that rhythm, the struggle softens. When you move with it, every step feels like returning home. You think of the river again, how it never resists, how it never clings. It accepts every curve, every obstacle, every fall, and in doing so, it never loses its way. The Tao, too, flows like that, through you, through all things, silent and certain. Close your eyes now. Listen to your breathing, slow and tender. Can you feel how it moves on its own, guided by something deeper than thought? That is the same force that moves the tides, that stirs the roots beneath the earth, that turns dawn into day. It has no name, no command, only presence. You begin to sense that to live well is not to control life, but to trust it, to let go of the need to push against the current, and instead to float within it, to do less, and in doing less, to become more. The Tao does not hurry, and yet everything unfolds in time. A quiet smile forms on Lao Tzu's lips. He looks at the river, then at you. When you live by the way, he whispers, you become like the river, moving, yielding, alive. The world no longer needs your effort to turn. It needs only your presence. The sound of the water deepens, blending with your breath until you can no longer tell them apart. For a long moment, there is nothing to say, nothing to do, only the flow, only the Tao, the way beneath all ways, moving gently within you. Long before the river and the mountain nights, there was a city of gold and echo. Within its high walls stood the palace, a labyrinth of marble and red silk, where light struck bronze mirrors and returned in shards of brilliance. Every corridor trembled with voices, ministers disputing, generals boasting, poets reciting verses to be forgotten by dawn. It was said that even silence in that palace made a sound, the faint hum of ambition, the whisper of want. Lao Tzu walked through it every day, his robes brushed against the cool stone floors, his sandals carrying the dust of the world's desires. He had served as keeper of the archives, the guardian of words and memory. Thousands of scrolls rested under his care, tales of rulers, codes of law, philosophies of order and control. And yet, among them, he found no peace. He could hear the noise of the court even in his dreams, the rise and fall of flattery, the clash of pride against pride, the endless hunger for what could never be held. At first, he thought the noise was around him. Later, he realized it was also within him, a low hum of thought, of judgment, of wanting to understand too much. One afternoon, he stood by the lattice window overlooking the courtyards. The air was thick with the scent of incense and iron. Far below, courtiers in silk argued about virtue and power, their voices rising like sparks. Each man was certain he knew the right way, yet the room itself seemed to grow smaller with every word. Lao Tzu listened, and something inside him began to unravel, not in anger, but in recognition. He understood then that wisdom cannot live where noise never ends. The mind, like a lake, must be still to reflect the sky. But here, in this palace, even thought had become a kind of battle. He turned from the window and walked among the scrolls, thousands upon thousands of words, each written with certainty, each claiming to explain the way. But the way, he thought, cannot be trapped in ink. He touched one of the scrolls lightly, almost tenderly, and whispered to himself, "Too many words for something that cannot be said." That night, as the moon rose over the city, the palace glittered like a jewel in darkness. But beneath the beauty was restlessness, a tension humming through every hall, every heart. It was a world addicted to movement, terrified of stillness. Lao Tzu sat alone in his chamber, the lamp flickering before him. He could hear the distant sound of laughter, the sharp ring of instruments, the shuffle of servants' feet. It was all part of the same music, the great noise of wanting. He closed his eyes, and in that small space of breath, he imagined the sound of a river instead. Soft, continuous, free. Something inside him began to answer that sound, not with words, but with longing. He realized then that the way could not be found in the palace, nor in the scrolls, nor in the voices of men. It could only be found where sound returns to silence, where the heart remembers its own rhythm. Outside, the wind pressed gently against the paper walls, carrying with it a faint scent of earth, the promise of departure. And in that moment, Lao Tzu understood. The time to leave was coming. At dawn, the city still slept beneath a pale mist. From the highest towers, smoke rose faintly, the scent of incense, the breath of prayers offered to invisible gods. Lao Tzu walked quietly through the courtyard, his steps slow, unhurried. No one stopped him. No one asked where he was going. It was as though the palace itself had already forgotten him. He wore the same faded robe he had worn for years, carrying nothing but a small satchel of scrolls, fragments of thought, poems about stillness, verses that spoke of the way. Behind him, the sound of the city faded like a dream dissolving in the morning light. Before him stretched the long road to the west, a ribbon of dust winding toward the mountains. The world was wide, silent, and alive. For the first time in many years, Lao Tzu felt the wind not as a messenger of others' words, but as a voice of its own. It moved through the grass, whispered across his sleeves, and seemed to say, "At last, you are walking your own path." He came upon a small inn at the edge of the city, where an old water buffalo grazed beside the road. Its eyes were calm, its body heavy with patience. Lao Tzu smiled. He placed a gentle hand on the animal's neck, feeling the slow rhythm of its breath. "Will you carry me?" he asked softly, though it wasn't really a question. The buffalo blinked once as if in agreement. And so he began his journey, an old philosopher on the back of an old beast moving westward into the quiet. The road wound through valleys and low hills, then climbed into mountain passes where the air grew thin and pure. He did not hurry. The Tao never hurries. Each step of the buffalo felt like a heartbeat of the earth. Each turn of the road revealed another shape of silence. Days passed, or perhaps weeks. Time lost its meaning. Lao Tzu spoke little, and the world spoke through him instead. He watched the clouds drift, the rivers curve, the herons take flight. He saw the same truth in everything, that all things move by not moving, become by not striving. Eventually, he reached the western border, a narrow gate built of stone, guarded by a single man. The gatekeeper had heard whispers of the sage who had left the court behind, and when he saw Lao Tzu approach, his heart stirred with awe. He bowed deeply, then said, "Master, before you go beyond our land, please, leave us your wisdom. The world may not see you again." Lao Tzu paused, the wind brushing his hair across his face. He looked at the mountains rising in the distance, vast, unmoved, eternal. Then he looked at the man and saw in his eyes not ambition, but sincerity. He nodded. "Bring me a brush," he said, "and a quiet place." The gatekeeper led him to a small hut by the road. Inside, there was only a wooden table, a lamp, and the faint smell of cedar smoke. Lao Tzu unrolled his few scrolls, but he wrote nothing from them. Instead, he began anew. His brush moved slowly, without hesitation, as though the words already existed and were only finding their way home to the page. He wrote of the nameless beginning, of the virtue of stillness, of water and humility, of the emptiness that holds all things. He wrote not as a teacher, but as a witness, recording what he had always known but never spoken aloud. Each stroke of ink was like a breath, each pause like a heartbeat. When he was done, the sun had already set. The small hut glowed with lamplight. He handed the scrolls to the gatekeeper, who received them as though holding the pulse of heaven itself. "These words," Lao Tzu said gently, "are only fingers pointing toward what cannot be spoken. Guard them, but do not worship them. Read them, but do not cling to them. The way will always flow beyond the page." Then, with a faint smile, he mounted the buffalo once more. The gatekeeper watched as he rode into the gathering dusk, a small figure moving toward the vastness of the unknown. The wind rose behind him, carrying the scent of pine and rain. The mountains opened like a doorway, and soon he was gone. It was said that no one ever saw him again. Only his words remained, 79 verses of quietness and power, a river of ink that would never stop flowing. They called it Tao Te Ching, the book of the way and its virtue. And even now, When you listen closely, you can almost hear the sound of his footsteps fading beyond the western gate. A man who left the world behind, yet never truly left at all. Night settled over the mountains like a slow exhale. The last traces of the sun melted into violet shadows, and the stars began to wake, one by one, shyly, as though remembering their place in the sky. Lao Tzu rode on, his silhouette small against the immensity of the world. The old buffalo moved with patient grace, its hooves pressing soft rhythms into the earth. There was no path now, only the faint gleam of moonlight tracing its way along the ridges. He did not look back. The city, the palace, the echo of countless voices, all had fallen behind the horizon. He carried no desire to return, no wish to be remembered. The world he had known was a noise that no longer reached him. What remained was the quiet, vast, and endless, whispering in the language of wind. Sometimes, as he rode, he could hear the soft sigh of the buffalo's breath. Sometimes, the distant call of an unseen bird. But mostly, there was silence, the kind of silence that is not absence, but fullness, the sound of everything resting in harmony. He thought of how humans cling to what they know, to names, to plans, to shapes of identity, and how easily the Tao slips through such grasping hands. To know peace, he realized, is to let go of the need to know, to walk not towards something, but into everything. He passed through forests where the air smelled of moss and rain, where moonlight fell in trembling patterns through the leaves. Each tree seemed to bow as he passed, though perhaps it was only the wind moving through their branches. He crossed shallow streams where water sang against stone, and each step forward erased the trace of the step before. The journey itself was the teaching, the unfolding of the Tao in motion. Sometimes he would stop and rest beside a river or beneath a leaning pine. He would close his eyes and feel the pulse of the earth beneath him, steady, eternal, without effort. And in those moments he understood that stillness and movement were not opposites but reflections of the same truth. Even the stars, which seemed fixed in the heavens, were always turning. Even the breath, which seemed to pause, was part of an endless exchange. He spoke aloud once, though there was no one to hear. To lose is to find. To go is to arrive. To let go is to return. His voice vanished into the air, but the wind seemed to nod in understanding. The deeper he traveled into the mountains, the lighter he felt. The weight of thought, of name, of purpose, all of it fell away like old leaves from a tree. He realized that freedom was not escape, but acceptance. To surrender is not to be weak, but to trust that the way will carry you where you need to go. At times, clouds would drift across the moon, and the world would disappear into darkness. Yet even then, he did not stop. He could feel the path beneath his hands, his breath guiding him, his heart steady as a drum. When the light returned, it was as if nothing had changed, and yet everything had become new. He thought of the people he had left behind, those still searching for meaning among the noise, still building towers of certainty in the air. He felt no sorrow for them, only compassion, for he had been among them once. He had known the ache of wanting life to make sense. Now he understood. The way is not to make sense, but to make peace. The buffalo slowed as they reached a high plateau where the air was clear and thin. From here, the land stretched endlessly, rivers glinting like veins of light, mountains folding into one another, valleys sinking into shadow. The sky above was vast beyond thought. He breathed it in, and it felt like breathing the universe itself. For a long while, he simply sat there, watching. No words came, only wonder. He realized that he no longer needed to speak of the Tao or even to think of it. He was it, the stillness, the movement, the breath between both. Far below, the river shimmered, winding toward the horizon like a living thread. He smiled faintly, the way one smiles when recognizing an old friend. He understood now that there was no separation between the journey and the destination. The act of moving was already arrival. The night grew colder. The wind whispered around him, carrying the scent of cedar and snow. Lao Tzu looked once more to the stars, their quiet fire echoing the spark within all things. He whispered, barely audible, "To be one with the unknown is to be free." Then he closed his eyes, The buffalo lowered its head, patient, unmoving, and as dawn began to brush the edges of the world, the figure of the old sage and his gentle beast faded into mist, not vanishing but dissolving into the greater whole as the river dissolves into the sea. And somewhere, far beyond the sound of thought, the Tao continued to flow, through mountains and valleys, through breath and silence, through all who learn to let go. AY4. The still heart of the world. Morning comes softly. The first light touches the peaks, slow and golden, and the world awakens in silence. The wind has no urgency. The river below glides without purpose. There is no rush in the rhythm of the earth, only arrival, moment by moment, breath by breath. Somewhere in that stillness, you begin to notice your own breathing again. The rise and fall of your chest mirrors the drift of the clouds. Each inhale expands the horizon. Each exhale opens the sky a little wider inside you. You realize that the body and the world are not separate. They are the same vast motion seen from two sides. The Tao moves not just through mountains and rivers, but through you. The pulse that beats beneath your ribs is the same rhythm that moves the tides. The air that fills your lungs has traveled across oceans, through forests, through the breath of countless lives before you. And now it becomes your breath, for a moment, before it moves on again. You sit quietly beneath the boundless blue. Nothing is missing. The world does not ask you to hurry or to prove or to chase. It asks only that you be here, present, breathing, aware. Lao Tzu once wrote, "When you stop chasing, you start arriving." You think about that for a moment. How often life feels like a pursuit, a constant leaning forward into what has not yet come. We chase happiness, peace, meaning, even rest. But the more we chase, the further away they seem to drift. Like reflections on water, they vanish the moment we reach for them. What if peace was never ahead of you, but already around you, in the air, the sound, the breath? What if arriving means simply stopping the chase? You let the thought dissolve, like mist in sunlight. You let the stillness widen until even your heartbeat feels like part of the landscape. The clouds pass overhead, slow, luminous, unconcerned. They do not try to stay. They do not fear their own vanishing. They drift, and in drifting, they are complete. Your thoughts are like those clouds. You do not need to hold them, nor push them away. You simply let them move, let them change shape, let them fade. The sky does not chase its clouds. It holds them all and loses none of itself. Your mind, too, can be that sky, vast, calm, untouched by whatever passes through. You take another breath, deep and effortless. The air feels cool as it enters, warm as it leaves. Between those two moments, the coming and the going, there is a still point, a silence so gentle that it almost hums. That is where the world meets itself. That is where you meet yourself. Stay there for a while, in that quiet place where nothing needs to be done. The mind unclenches, the heart softens, and for the first time, perhaps in a very long time, you are not searching for anything. You are simply here. The sky above, the breath within, the stillness between. All are one motion, one presence, one infinite unfolding. And as you rest in that awareness, you begin to feel what Lao Tzu felt by the river long ago, that peace is not something to reach, but something to remember. There is a kind of stillness that exists even in the busiest cities. It hides beneath the hum of traffic, behind glowing windows, within the slow rhythm of footsteps on wet pavement. If you listen closely, beyond the noise, beyond your thoughts, you can feel it waiting, quiet and patient. That stillness is the same silence that lived by the river long ago. It has never left the world. We have only forgotten how to hear it. You might be sitting now in a small room filled with the echo of your own day, unfinished plans, unspoken words, the gentle weight of fatigue. Maybe the mind keeps circling the same questions. What will happen next? Am I doing enough? Why does peace always feel one step away? This is where Wu Wei begins, not in escape, but in recognition. It is the art of not forcing, the grace of not fighting against the flow of things. In Lao Tzu's words, The way does nothing, yet leaves nothing undone. To practice Wu Wei in our time does not mean to withdraw from life, but to live within it without being carried away by its storms. It is to move with awareness rather than urgency, to act with presence rather than control. When you feel tension rise, that quick tightening in the chest, that restless need to fix or predict, pause, breathe. Notice how life continues around you without asking for your permission. The clouds still move. The air still holds its quiet rhythm. Your heart still beats without being told how. That is Wu Wei, the effortless alignment with what already knows how to be. Imagine you are standing by the river again, watching the current sweep past. A leaf falls onto the water. It does not resist. It drifts, spins once, and disappears downstream. You do not pity the leaf. You understand it belongs to the river now. In the same way, every worry, every thought, every moment that feels out of control, all are leaves floating on the surface of your awareness. They do not need to be pushed away. They only need to be allowed to pass. We live in a world that worships effort, the endless striving, the constant need to improve, to prove, to perfect. But the Tao does not ask for effort. It asks for balance. It asks for trust. When you stop forcing the world to move your way, you discover it is already moving in harmony. Think of water. It does not fight the shape of the rock. It finds the opening. It flows where it can, yielding and adapting. Over time, that same softness wears down mountains. Its power lies not in aggression, but in its patience, its faith in gravity, its quiet acceptance of direction. And so it can be with you. When work becomes heavy, when decisions tangle the mind, when love feels uncertain, be water. Flow where you can. Rest where you must. Do what is needed, but without clinging to the result. The river does not chase the ocean, it simply moves toward it. Let your anxieties be like passing clouds. You cannot clear the sky by waving your hands at it. You can only watch the wind carry the clouds away in their own time. Even the stormiest sky knows how to return to blue. Your mind does too. Lao Tzu once said, "Those who follow the Tao are like children, gentle, spontaneous, without resistance." A child does not struggle to be joyful. It simply plays, unaware of joy as a concept. When you return to that ease, that simplicity, life begins to flow again. You don't have to force yourself to be calm. You only have to stop forcing everything else. Calm will rise on its own, like water settling after a stone is dropped. Outside, the city still hums. People hurry. Lights change. The world keeps turning. But somewhere inside, a stillness grows, a quiet confidence that you can let the world be what it is and still be at peace. You take one last deep breath. The air enters gently, leaves gently. And in that rhythm, the Tao speaks again, not as words, but as ease. Do less. Trust more. Let the river carry you home. The evening returns, and the air grows cool again. A hush settles across the world, the kind of silence that seems to breathe. You watch the branches sway outside your window, their leaves trembling softly in the fading light. None of them resist the wind. They bow, they bend, and then they rise again. There is a quiet lesson in that motion, one so simple that most forget to see it. The leaf does not curse the wind for blowing. It does not cling to the branch with fear. It surrenders completely, yet it never breaks. It knows, in some unspoken way, that to yield is to survive. Lao Tzu once wrote, "The softest thing in the world overcomes the hardest." He must have been thinking of things like this: the grace of the leaf, the patience of water, the endurance of silence. In softness, there is strength, because softness cannot be shattered. It moves with the world, not against it. The hard resists, and so it cracks. The soft adapts, and so it endures. You close your eyes and picture yourself as that leaf. The wind that moves around you may be uncertainty, loss, fear, or change. It may shake your life, twist your branches, scatter what you once held dear. But if you let yourself bend, if you let yourself flow with it, the storm passes through you, not against you. And when it's gone, you are still standing, lighter than before. There is no weakness in gentleness. True gentleness comes from knowing you do not need to fight to exist. It is the calm confidence that the Tao moves through you as surely as it moves through the mountains and the sea. You are not here to control the wind, only to dance with it. Imagine a bamboo grove in the rain. The stalks bend low under the weight of water, each one bowing as if in prayer. But when the storm ends and the sun returns, they stand tall again, glistening. The oak, proud and rigid, might splinter in the same wind that leaves the bamboo unbroken. This is the way of life, to bend without losing your root. In the modern world, strength is often confused with resistance. We are taught to push harder, speak louder, hold tighter. But the Tao whispers another truth, that power and peace are not opposites, that gentleness and endurance are the same current in different forms. You begin to feel it now, the soft strength moving through you. It's in your breath, steady and quiet. It's in the way your heart keeps beating even when you are tired. It's in the way you've always found a way to continue, even when you thought you couldn't. That is not force, that is flow. The wind outside sighs once more, brushing the trees like a mother smoothing the hair of a sleeping child. You breathe with it, in and out, slow and tender. You realize that softness is not surrender. It is trust. It is harmony. It is knowing that the world has never been your enemy. And in that realization, the tension in your body fades. You are the leaf. You are the bamboo. You are the river and the wind that moves it. You are the quiet strength that bends, but never breaks. The night is gentle, and the world feels unburdened. You sit in the stillness, listening to the small sounds that remain, the slow pulse of your breath, the faint hum of life continuing quietly around you. There is nothing to chase, nothing to fix. Only this moment, as soft as a candle's glow. Lao Tzu once wrote, "He who knows enough is enough, will always have enough." You turn those words over in your mind like a smooth stone, feeling their weight and their warmth. They seem simple, almost obvious, yet they hold a truth deeper than desire can reach. The human heart is restless by nature. It looks outward, always searching for more comfort, more success, more certainty, more love. We build our days around the idea that if we just gather enough money, enough approval, enough control, we will finally rest. But the horizon of enough always moves a little further away. And so, we run. The Tao offers another way. It does not promise more. It invites less. It whispers, "What if peace is not found in what you gain, but in what you release?" Look around you now. Everything that truly sustains you, the air, the breath, the light, the pulse of life itself, asks for nothing in return. You do not earn the sunrise. You do not command the tide. You do not control the beating of your own heart. And yet, they are all perfectly as they should be. The more you try to grasp life, the more it slips through your fingers. The tighter you hold, the less you can feel. But when you let go, gently, sincerely, what remains is clarity. What remains is peace. Imagine holding a cup of water. If you clench your fist, the water spills. If you open your hand, the water rests calmly in your palm. Control is the fist. Trust is the open hand. You take a slow breath and notice how even your breathing teaches you this truth. You cannot inhale forever. You must exhale to make space for the next breath. To live is to give back, to release, to flow. To hold on is to suffocate. In a world that glorifies accumulation, simplicity feels like rebellion. But Lao Tzu saw it not as deprivation, rather as liberation. To live simply is to return to the natural rhythm of the Tao, quiet, balanced, free. You don't need to own every answer. You don't need to predict the next storm or solve every uncertainty. Life has always been larger than your plans for it. Let it be. Let it move. Let it breathe. In that space of surrender, life becomes gentle again. You find yourself noticing small wonders, the way light moves through a curtain, the scent of rain on soil, the softness of your own heartbeat. Nothing extraordinary, and yet everything is extraordinary. To know enough is not resignation. It is wisdom. It is the quiet knowing that you cannot lose what was never meant to be possessed, that the peace you seek does not live in control, but in trust. Lao Tzu once said, "When you realize nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you." You repeat the words softly, as if to remind yourself that they were always true. You close your eyes. The mind grows light, the breath becomes slow, and you begin to feel the vastness of simplicity, a freedom so gentle, so effortless, that it feels like coming home. Morning light returns, soft and pale, brushing gently across the mountains and the slow-turning river below. The world seems to exhale. Mist drifts through the trees like a dream not yet finished. Everything feels new again, unburdened, untouched, innocent. Lao Tzu once said, "Returning is the motion of the Tao." It is not a command, but a rhythm, a reminder that all things, after wandering far, eventually find their way back to the beginning. And what is the beginning? Not power, not knowledge, not control, but simplicity, softness, wonder. He often compared the wise person to a child, not because of ignorance, but because of openness. The child does not divide the world into useful and useless, beautiful and ugly, success and failure. It simply experiences. It sees the butterfly not as a symbol, but as a fluttering miracle. It feels the rain and does not ask why it falls. As you sit in stillness now, perhaps you can remember that kind of seeing, how it felt when the world was wide and everything was enough. Before you learn to measure days by achievements, before you learn to hide behind certainty, there was a time when the smallest things could fill your heart, the color of the sky, the sound of laughter, the warmth of another hand. That time is not gone. It is simply waiting for your return. The child within you has not vanished. It has only grown quiet beneath the noise of adulthood, beneath the lists, the worries, the masks you've learned to wear. But the Tao does not ask you to be impressive. It asks you to be real, to feel again, without guarding, to wonder again, without analyzing, to live again, without resisting. You breathe in, and for a moment, everything feels lighter. Your name, your plans, even your thoughts. They seem to fade into the background, like ripples settling after a stone has fallen. What remains is presence, pure, awake, wordless. Lao Tzu once wrote, "He who possesses virtue is like a newborn child." He meant that innocence is not weakness, but strength, the kind that comes from harmony with the way. A child's heart is soft because it does not yet know how to fight life. It receives, it trusts, it moves where joy moves it. Imagine the Tao itself as a great breath, inhaling and exhaling existence. Everything that lives is part of that breath, born, growing, returning. When you allow yourself to rest in that rhythm, you begin to sense the same gentleness that cradles all things. You remember that you were never apart from the world. You were always part of its flow. Return to that place now, to the quiet curiosity that once made every moment enough. Let your gaze soften. Notice the way the light moves across the room. Notice the way the air feels cool against your skin. These small things are not small. They are the pulse of the infinite disguised as the ordinary. When you stop trying to be wise, you become wise. When you stop trying to be perfect, you become whole. This is the paradox of returning. To go forward, you must go back. To grow, you must become simple again. You take a slow breath and smile. It feels almost like remembering something you never truly forgot, the ease of being alive without question. The child within you stirs, not as a memory, but as presence. You feel its lightness, its laughter, its trust, and in that moment, you understand the motion of the Tao. It is not a climb upward, but a gentle falling back into what you already are. The day has folded into evening. The light outside fades into the color of quiet. Shadows stretch long and gentle across the floor, and the air grows calm. That tender hour when everything seems to exhale at once. You feel the same release inside you, a loosening of thought, a settling of weight. It is the peace that comes when there is nothing left to add. Lao Tzu once said, "In the pursuit of knowledge, something is gained every day. In the pursuit of the way, something is lost every day." To lose, he meant, is not to become less, but to return to what is essential. When you shed the unnecessary, what remains is truth. When you stop holding everything, your hands become free to touch what truly matters. Simplicity is not a rule to follow. It is a rhythm, a quiet returning to the center, again and again. It is knowing that peace has always been closer than you thought. It lives in the breath, in the space between moments, in the pause before you speak. You do not need to seek it far. You only need to soften. Take a breath now. Slow, unforced. Let the air move in like a wave and let it drift out like the tide. There is no need to make it perfect. It already is. You begin to notice how everything simplifies when you stop trying to control it. The body knows how to rest. The heart knows how to heal. The world knows how to turn. You are part of that knowing. You always have been. Outside, the trees sway gently, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind. They do not rush. They do not cling to their branches in fear of falling. When the season comes, they let go, trusting the ground to receive them. In that letting go, they fulfill their purpose. To live simply is to live like that, with trust, with ease, with no need to hold everything together. You cannot stop the seasons, but you can move with them. You cannot command the river, but you can float upon it. You cannot predict the wind, but you can open your hand and feel it pass through. The less you try to shape the world, the more beautiful it becomes. The less you demand from life, the more life gives itself to you. Because in the quiet space where wanting fades, gratitude begins to bloom. And gratitude, Lao Tzu would say, is the natural fragrance of simplicity. You may begin to feel drowsy now, not from weariness, but from peace. Your breath grows slower, your thoughts softer. The voice that once filled your mind with questions begins to fade into a low hum of contentment. You are returning to the simplest rhythm of all, the rhythm of being. Lao Tzu once wrote, "To be content with what you have is to be rich." And you understand now that this richness has nothing to do with possessions. It is the richness of an unburdened heart. It is the quiet joy of existing without trying to become anything more. The candle's flame flickers, then steadies. Its light is small, but enough to fill the room. In that glow, everything seems perfect in its simplicity. The gentle sound of breath, the weight of your body sinking into stillness, the soft awareness that nothing is missing. You feel your mind settling, like dust returning to the earth. The pulse slows, the shoulders release. There is nothing to fix, nothing to hold. You are safe in this moment, untouched, complete, free. The great paradox of simplicity is this: when you let go of more, you receive everything. When you stop searching, you discover you have already arrived. When you stop clinging, your hands open to the infinite. Outside, the night deepens. A few stars appear, each one a point of calm in the vast dark sky. You breathe once more, slow and deep. And as the breath leaves you, so does the last bit of striving. Now there is only peace, only softness, only this quiet truth that needs no words. In the end, simplicity is freedom, and freedom is simply being. The night is vast yet tender. It stretches endlessly above you, an ocean of quiet light where stars breathe and disappear, where the air itself seems to hum with unseen life. Somewhere far away, a river murmurs softly, as if remembering a song it has sung since the beginning of time. Everything feels slower now, softer. Even your thoughts begin to move like drifting clouds across the moon. You close your eyes and listen. At first, you hear the small things, the faint whisper of air entering your lungs, the heartbeat echoing somewhere deep within your chest, the subtle rustle of fabric as you settle into stillness. But if you listen more carefully, you begin to hear something beneath it all. Not a sound, but the space between sounds. A quiet that holds everything tenderly without judgment. That is where the Tao begins to speak. Take a breath now. Inhale, slow, gentle, unforced. Then exhale, easy, complete. Notice how, after each breath, there is a small pause, a still moment when nothing happens. No in, no out, no effort, only presence. Stay there, in that pause. It is smaller than a heartbeat, yet wider than the sky. In that space, there is no past, no future, no identity to uphold, only the simple truth of being. Lao Tzu once wrote, "There, in the pause, lives the Tao." You begin to understand what he meant. It is not found in movement nor in stillness alone, but in the meeting point between both, that sacred silence where all opposites dissolve. When you breathe again, you realize the breath is not yours to control. It has always known how to move. The Tao breathes through you, not because you command it, but because you are part of its rhythm. The same rhythm that guides the stars, the wind, the tide. Between two breaths, the entire universe rests. And within that rest, everything aligns. The mind may try to name it, to understand, to capture it in words, but the Tao cannot be caught. It is the silence behind the thought, the stillness behind the pulse, the emptiness that makes all fullness possible. It is the quiet companion that has followed you your whole life, waiting for you to stop long enough to notice. You listen again. The silence seems to deepen, yet it is not empty. It hums softly, like the low vibration of the earth turning beneath your feet. You realize that this silence is not separate from sound. It gives birth to it, receives it, dissolves it, and remains untouched through it all. Perhaps peace is not the absence of sound, but the awareness that holds every sound gently, like water holding light. Even now, as you breathe, there is sound, a faint hum, the whisper of air, the rhythm of being alive. And within all of it, there is space, the space that allows it to exist. You begin to sense the miracle in that space. Every pause becomes a doorway, every silence, a teacher, every breath, a return. Let yourself drift into it. Don't try to hold the moment. Let it hold you. The air moves in and out on its own. Your body knows what to do. You do not have to be the one keeping the world turning. Lao Tzu once said, "To be still is to be whole." You feel that truth now, not as an idea, but as a presence. Your breath slows, your heart softens. The mind, once busy with names and meanings, opens like a calm lake beneath the stars. You sit there, listening not to sound, but to silence, the quiet music that was always there, waiting behind everything. And in that sacred stillness, the Tao breathes you, endlessly, peacefully now. The silence deepens until it begins to move. At first you barely notice, a faint pulse beneath your skin, a quiet rhythm rising and falling within your breath. It feels like the world breathing with you, through you. There is no effort in it, no direction to manage, only flow. You sit there, still and aware, and realize that even stillness is not truly still. Blood moves in its hidden rivers. The lungs expand and soften. The heart beats in steady time. Each breath ripples through you like wind through grass, gentle and continuous. You begin to feel it now, the unseen current that connects everything. It hums beneath the noise of thought, beneath the name of every muscle, beneath even the concept of you. It is the same current that bends the river, that lifts the morning mist, that guides the flight of birds without their knowing why. This is the Tao made visible through sensation, soft, subtle, alive. You don't need to control it. You never have. Even when you think you are the one keeping balance, it is life itself balancing through you. Every heartbeat happens without command. Every cell remembers its place. Every motion of the earth, tides, clouds, seasons, unfolds without the need for a single instruction. Lao Tzu once wrote, "The Tao never acts, yet through it all things are done." As you breathe, you begin to understand. There is a wisdom woven into the smallest patterns of being, a grace that doesn't need your management, only your trust. You imagine a stream flowing through a mountain valley. It does not ask which way to go. It simply follows gravity, the gentle pull of what is natural. When it meets a stone, it flows around it. When it meets a fall, it becomes the waterfall. When it meets the sea, it joins without resistance. And still, it remains water. Now, feel that same stream moving through you, not as imagination, but as truth. From the crown of your head to the soles of your feet, energy drifts, spirals, and returns. Each breath guides it, yet each breath also follows it. This is the harmony of body and Tao, effortless cooperation, sacred surrender. You might feel warmth somewhere, a soft glow in the chest, a tingling in the hands, a sense of lightness behind the eyes. Don't chase it, don't name it, simply allow it to move where it wishes. The Tao cannot be held, but it can be felt, like wind through open fingers or sunlight passing over skin. In this moment, the idea of control feels almost tender, almost unnecessary. The world has been flowing perfectly long before you were here to manage it. Your breath was learned before you were born. Your heart began beating in the dark long before you knew what life was. And now, even as you sit and listen, everything continues. The stars burn quietly above. The oceans move in rhythm with the moon. The grass grows through cracks in forgotten stone. All of it without effort. All of it without control. You take another breath, slow, full, complete. The air moves in easily and leaves just as easily. Nothing to push, nothing to fix, only the perfection of what is happening now. You begin to sense that your life too could be lived this way, not as a struggle to shape the river, but as a willingness to travel within it. To flow does not mean to drift without direction. It means to trust that direction is already woven into the current. Outside, a wind stirs through the trees. You can almost feel it brushing your skin, carrying with it the same invisible pulse that moves through your breath. Everything is connected in this quiet, luminous network of being. You exhale slowly, deeply, and a thought arises. Not as words, but as feeling. The universe has never needed you to control it. It only asks that you remember you are part of it. And as the wind fades, you rest again in silence, the kind that flows, the kind that breathes, the kind that holds everything gently, without needing to hold it all. The night hums softly, like a whisper from the edge of dreaming. The air is cool, tender, alive with unseen motion, the quiet breath of the world moving through you. Somewhere, far below, a river still flows. It glimmers faintly beneath the moonlight, winding through darkness as though remembering its own beginning. And as you listen, you feel it again, that same slow rhythm that has been guiding you all along. It is the sound of the Tao returning to itself. You close your eyes, and the boundaries between you and the river blur. Each inhale draws its current inward, each exhale releases it back. The line between breath and water disappears, between body and world, between you and the vastness. The journey that once felt like moving outward has always been a turning inward. You have not been searching for the Tao, you have been remembering it. Lao Tzu once said, "To the world, you may seem to be moving, but in truth, you are returning. All things flow, but none are lost. The leaves that fall become soil, the clouds that vanish become rain, the rivers that wander become sea. So it is with you. You have traveled through thought and silence, through surrender and stillness, and now you find yourself back at the beginning, where everything began with a breath and a river before words. The wind moves softly through the reeds, carrying the scent of night and memory. It feels almost like a lullaby, ancient, kind, infinite. You realize that you have never been apart from it. You were always part of its song. You are already everything you seek. The words drift through your mind like ripples on water. You hear them not as instruction, but as truth. There was never a separate path to follow, only the unfolding of what was already whole. The Tao has been breathing you since the first moment you arrived in this world. It shaped your hands, your heartbeat, your thoughts. It guided your joys, your losses, your quiet hours of waiting. Even when you felt most lost, it was there, flowing beneath the noise, patient as the river beneath the mist. You begin to feel the completeness of it, how every question you've carried has been answered by silence, how every motion has led you back to stillness. You understand now that being and becoming are not opposites. They are one motion, one river, endlessly circling. Every breath you take is both a beginning and a return. The river that flowed through Lao Tzu's world still flows through yours. It has passed beneath mountains, through centuries, through hearts that once listened as you do now. It has never stopped singing. If you place your hand over your heart, you can feel it, the faint, eternal rhythm of water finding its way home. You breathe again, deeper now, softer now. With each breath, the mind loosens its last grip on effort. You are no longer trying to understand. You are simply being, and in being, you are becoming. The circle closes, yet never ends. Somewhere in the dark, the old philosopher sits again by the river. His hair is silver, his face calm, his eyes reflecting the same moon that watches you now. He does not speak. He does not need to. The river speaks for him. The wind carries his silence like a blessing. You feel it brush across your face, the same silence that has been with you since the first moment of stillness. It says nothing, yet it means everything. You are the river. You are the breath. You are the pause between them. You are the Tao, not reaching, not striving, simply flowing. The world exhales around you, the stars shimmer once more. And as you drift toward rest, the voice of the wind seems to murmur softly, tenderly, as if to cradle you in its rhythm. Be still, dear one. The journey is complete. The river has found itself again. At the edge of the world, the river widens, the mountains fall behind, and the air grows open. Salt sweet, endless. The water that once murmured between stones now breathes with the rhythm of tides. It has traveled so far, carrying fragments of clouds and moonlight, of leaves and whispers and forgotten rain. Now, at last, it feels the pull of the sea. The current slows. The river hesitates, not in fear, but in awe. Before it lies the great expanse of everything, a horizon without end, a mirror that holds both sky and depth. The river can no longer see its own shape, but it feels the invitation to surrender, to merge, to become. You breathe with it. Each inhale draws you toward vastness. Each exhale loosens the edges of who you think you are. You can almost taste the sea in the air, that ancient silence that has swallowed countless rivers before. And yet, nothing is lost. Every drop that enters the ocean remains water. Every current continues, unseen, within a greater rhythm. Lao Tzu once said, "To be whole, let yourself be partial. To be full, be empty. To return, yield." The river understands this wisdom without words. It does not fight the sea, it bows to it. It does not cling to its name, it lets it dissolve in the immensity. For in losing its form, it becomes more than itself. It becomes the ocean. You close your eyes, and the sound of water deepens around you. You hear the river's voice merging with the sea, two tones becoming one continuous hum, the music of the Tao itself. It is the sound of everything finding its way home. You feel that same merging inside you. The boundaries soften, between body and air, between thought and silence. All that you've carried begins to loosen. The stories, the fears, the endless striving to define yourself. They dissolve like sand in the tide. For so long, you have believed yourself to be the river, flowing, searching, moving towards something greater. But now you see, you have always been the sea as well. Every question has been an echo of your own depth. Every journey has been a returning. The river does not grieve its ending. There is no end, only change. The drop that vanishes becomes the wave becomes mist, the mist returns to cloud and rain. Everything continues, though nothing stays the same. This is the quiet perfection of the Tao. You breathe again, slow, effortless. The breath enters like the tide, leaves like the tide. There is no separation between what moves and what is moved. The body, the breath, the silence, all part of one unbroken sea. The moon rises over the water, round and silver, and for a moment it seems to rest on the surface. You imagine Lao Tzu there again, seated on his old water buffalo, watching the river join the ocean. He smiles faintly, not as a teacher, but as one who has seen the circle complete. The Tao, he knows, never ends. You can feel the peace of that knowing now. It spreads through you like light through clear water. You no longer need to hold your name, or your purpose, or your path. The river has found its home, and so have you. Everything that once felt separate, breath and wind, thought and silence, self and world, has become one vast, shimmering field of being. It moves, it rests, it is. And as you listen to the ocean breathing, you begin to understand what the Tao has been whispering all along. You were never the river. You were always the sea. The moon has climbed high above the horizon now, a pale lantern floating over the endless sea. Its reflection trembles across the surface, shivering like breath over still water. The air is soft, almost weightless. Each wave rises and falls in perfect silence, as though the ocean itself is asleep. And there, upon a rock near the edge of the shore, sits the old sage. His robe moves with the wind, his eyes shimmer with the light of the moon. He does not look ancient anymore, or perhaps he never did. Time seems to have forgotten him, just as he has forgotten time. You approach, but he does not speak at once. He simply watches the sea, patient, kind, unhurried. The wind passes through the reeds behind him with the sound of soft laughter, and you realize it is the same wind that once whispered through the mountains, the same voice that has been calling you since the beginning. Finally, he turns to you, and his smile is so gentle it feels like light itself. When he speaks, his words move like waves, not to instruct, but to lull, to soothe, to remind. To know peace, he murmurs, forget peace. You blink, unsure, but his voice continues, calm, rhythmic, like the sea itself explaining something only the heart can understand. Peace is not something you hold. It is what remains when you stop holding anything at all. The moment you chase it, it runs. The moment you name it, it changes shape. But when you grow quiet, it returns, like a tide, finding the shore. He pauses, letting the sound of the ocean fill the silence. Each wave folds into the next, a soft and endless breathing. You begin to feel your own breath move in time with it, in, out, gentle, complete. The Tao, he says, is not something you reach. It is what you already are. Even your restlessness belongs to it, even your doubt. There is nowhere to go but here. He looks back toward the sea. When the river meets the ocean, it does not vanish. It becomes vast. When you let go of yourself, you do not disappear. You become everything. You listen, and the sound of his voice begins to blend with the waves. The meaning doesn't need to be understood. It only needs to be felt. Each word lands softly, like the brush of wind across your eyelids. Each breath draws you closer to stillness. You have tried to hold the world in your hands, he says, his tone now barely above a whisper. But the world cannot be held. Let it hold you instead. You feel the truth of that. The more you release, the lighter you become. The softer you are, the more life seems to cradle you. Even your thoughts begin to rest, not vanishing, but floating like small boats on a calm sea. The old sage smiles again, eyes half closed, as though he too is drifting toward sleep. The Tao, he murmurs, is the mother of all things, and you are her child. Rest now, and return to her embrace. The wind moves once more across the water, carrying his words farther and farther away, until they sound less like speech and more like a song, a lullaby without melody, older than memory. You can feel it vibrating inside you, a resonance of peace beyond thought. You look at him one last time. His form seems softer now, fading into the night, becoming one with the horizon. For a moment, you think you hear him again, not outside, but within. Do not seek the Tao. Do not name it. Be it. And then the voice becomes silence. The silence becomes the sea, and the sea becomes your breath. Slow, steady, infinite. Your body relaxes. The air feels warm against your skin. The edges of thought dissolve like mist. You are no longer listening to the Tao. You are listening as the Tao. The ocean breathes once more, and so do you. The sea has grown perfectly still. Its surface shines like glass, reflecting the quiet stars above. The air is warm and weightless, carrying the scent of salt and night. Every sound that once filled the world, the whisper of waves, the murmur of wind, the voice of the old sage, begins to fade. Even the thoughts inside your own mind drift further apart, like petals floating downstream. You are not losing anything. You are returning. The rhythm of your breath becomes the only movement left. Inhale, soft and slow, like the tide reaching the shore. Exhale, deeper now, quieter as the tide slips away again. Each breath lengthens the silence. Each silence deepens the peace. You no longer need to listen. You no longer need to understand. The world is breathing for you, through you, as you. The Tao moves, effortless, endless, and you move with it. The night expands. The stars seem closer now, their light falling gently across the open water. There is no boundary between sky and sea, no horizon dividing them. Everything merges, above, below, within. You feel that merging inside you. The body grows lighter, softer, almost transparent. It is as if you are dissolving into air, into light, into the slow turning of the world. You are not separate from the ocean, not separate from the sky. You are part of the same infinite breath that began before time had a name. The heart beats once, twice, and then slows, as if bowing to the rhythm of eternity. Even that rhythm seems to soften until it becomes one with the great stillness beneath it. You drift deeper. The water around you glows faintly, as though the stars have sunk beneath the surface. Every ripple carries light. Every drop carries rest. You let go, completely. There is nothing left to hold. No past, no tomorrow, no I. Only the wide, calm, now. Lao Tzu once said, "The sage is like water, humble, yielding, content." And now you understand. To yield is not to lose. It is to join the flow of all that is. To become humble is to become vast. To release control is to enter freedom. You are floating in that freedom now, weightless, whole, home. The ocean beneath you breathes, and you breathe with it. The stars flicker, and you flicker too. Tiny reflections in an endless field of light. The Tao is not somewhere far away. It is here, in this perfect quiet, in the space between each heartbeat. You can feel the pulse of the earth through the water, the slow song of everything that has ever lived. It hums beneath your skin like a memory too deep to name. And then even that hum fades, not into absence, but into the fullness that needs no sound. You are drifting now, beyond language, beyond thought. No borders, no beginning, no end. You have become what you were always seeking, the stillness behind the world, the breath behind all breaths. The old sage's voice returns, but softer than wind. So soft it feels as though it rises from your own chest. "The Tao is not found in striving," he whispers. "It is found in rest. Let the world be. Let yourself be." The words fold into silence again, and you realize you no longer need them. They have done their work. Now there is only peace. The waves grow slower. The stars grow dim. Everything fades into the gentle rhythm of breath, in, out, quiet, endless. You are floating between worlds, held by the same stillness that holds the sky. Nothing stirs, nothing separates, everything is home. And as the last trace of thought dissolves into sleep, the voice, or perhaps it is the sea, or perhaps it is you, whispers the final lullaby. You are the breath. You are the river. You are home.